Students are standing, facing all armed killers. Every section of the people joined the protest after seeing all this cruelty.
Bangladesh just has such a rich history of resistance and struggle, and with this mass uprising, it's just been an inspiration to people all over the world. Welcome to Spring Radio, a podcast for socialist ideas and action. I'm Sarah Shahid, Spring member and co-host of the Spring Radio podcast. Today's episode is about the historic mass uprising in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is one of the most populous countries in the world and has a significant impact on the global economy through its clothing manufacturing and migrant labor export industries. Geographically, it's surrounded by India on all sides, with just the south opening to the Bay of Bengal, making Bangladesh's ports a strategic trade point and its coastal area extremely vulnerable to climate change. Bangladesh was born out of a national liberation struggle against Pakistan in 1971. Since then, it has witnessed a series of military coups, some flashes of democracy, and then the steady 15-year-long authoritarian rule under Sheikh Hasina and her party, the Awami League. Overthrowing an authoritarian regime like Sheikh Hasina's is not an easy task, but the students and masses of Bangladesh did this very deed on August 5th, 2024. I spoke to Professor Mohammad, who has been closely involved with the student movement and mass uprising through his active role in the University Teachers Network. Mohammad is a former professor of economics at Jahangirnagar University in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and the editor of Shorbojon Kotha, Public Voices. He has authored over 40 books, and his most recent book is called Development Re-Examined: Construction and Consequence of Neoliberal Bangladesh. Professor Mohammad and I discussed the recent mass uprising in Bangladesh, what led to it, and where we can go from here. But before we get into our conversation, I want to take a moment to share some exciting news. Spring is hosting its annual Red October conference from October 18 to 20 this year. Join Spring for a weekend of socialist ideas and strategy. A link to purchase tickets is in the episode description. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Professor Mohammad. Professor Mohammad, welcome and thank you so much for being on the podcast today. To start, I think, what a last couple of weeks for all of us. We just witnessed history. Bangladesh's authoritarian leader, Sheikh Hasina, who has been in power for 15 years, just got ousted by a mass uprising. I'm just wondering, just for our audience, could you explain to our listeners the significance of this moment in the context of Bangladesh's history?
In order to understand this uprising, it is better to look at the context. Context means this government. Who are this government? Who are these rulers? What is the problem with this government? This government came into power in 2008 by an election that was acceptable election, and all participated in that election. And this party got elected by getting huge majority. This was in 2008. But that was the last election, acceptable election. After that, in 2014, that was not actually an election. In 2018, that was totally robbed election. That was not election. Every voting ballot papers were filled up the night before the election date. And the last election was in 2024, 7th January. So it was an expired government. Expired in the sense that they expired their limit. And in order to remain in power, the government relied on the force, police, empowered different types of repressive mechanism. They used their party machine, created private army within the party to keep repression, to make terrorize people everywhere, university, the project area, power plant area, in different stages where the river grabbing, forest grabbing taking place by the party backed rich people. They wanted to ensure that no opposition, no protest took place. They used crossfire, the extrajudicial killing, abduction, and terrorizing people. So that was a huge repressive system they developed over the years. At the same time, and because of this, or you can say that with the help of this repressive system or authoritarian system, there was a huge concentration of wealth, concentration of power, broad concentration of wealth. There was a huge inequality. And we have seen GDP growth, very good GDP growth, but there was a jobless growth. People did not find their suitable jobs they deserve. Working class, in the working class, our wage is the lowest in the world. And for the owners, governments owners and other owners, their profit is the highest rate of profit, the lowest rate of wage for the working class. There is no minimum wage, a national minimum. There was no national minimum wage. So inequality, poverty, discrimination, and depression, terrorizing, all created economic life, political life, security, dignity, and the future possibility. In every sphere, people see no hope. There was a hopeless situation. As people were very much anger and disappointment. But the opposition party, the BNP and Jamaat, they could not provide the answer, response, because could not earn the confidence of the people, because they had also in the power, and that was not a good record. So people, they tried, but people did not come the way they came behind the students after July 14th. This was the student movement. It was in the beginning, it was very simple. It was for end of discrimination in government job, because these young people, these educated young people, they see that they have no future. They have to go abroad, taking risk and spending money, selling their assets, etc. Problem of working class people, students from working class and the lower middle class and middle class. This section of the population are like, they are concerned, because the rich and upper middle class, they don't see their future within Bangladesh. They try to go outside, go to abroad, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, and then the Western world. So this is like, it is a working class, peasantry, and lower middle class. The students of these classes, mostly, they are concerned about the job facilities. The discriminatory quota system was an obstruction, that obstacle for them for getting their job according to merit. So that was the beginning of students movement, and that was a very popular student movement. And the other people, their guardians, like working people and the lower middle class guardians, even when they blocked the road, many people were suffering. But they are suffering, but they are also saying that we are suffering, but the students have very logical and justified demand. Government should fulfill this demand. So they arm their support and confidence from the society at large. That continued, and government did not hear, and government did not care, because government saw themselves as totally powerful. They don't have to care anything. Everything is under control. And they have Chhatra League, student wing of ruling party. They are given everything they can do in university college to stop the dissenting voices. And the government rely on them. They have arms, they use arms, they play a role as hired goons of the local rich and also the government. So nobody is allowed to make any dissent. But in this situation, this quota movement, anti-discriminatory student movement, there are many general members of ruling party student wing. That is very significant. Why? Because the ruling party student wing leaders, they don't care any job because they have anything. They have money, they earn money, and they see their future, very bright future, in business, etc., political future. But the general members, they also need job. So they also joined this movement. So in the beginning, the ruling party student wing did not stop this, did not use force to stop this mobilization, procession, etc. Up to 14th July, that was the scenario. Huge mobilization, huge procession taking place. Sometimes they are blocking roads, but government is not doing anything, and government student wing is not doing anything. On 14th July, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, as usual, as she used to, she always used to express her like authoritarian voice, and she does not respect. She does not have any respect for the people and students, workers. Always she talk about like very insulting or humiliating words she used to use. And that was the beginning of a new chapter. She used very humiliating, very disturbing, and very insulting words for the demonstrators. And that was the beginning of a new upsurge. On the night, that night, female students came out from the dormitories, male students came, and that numbers were increasing from there. And on 15th July, government mobilized ruling party student wing to stop that, to make attacks on the demonstrating students. So first they went there, and then the police came, and they used everything, and they started killing. And first, Abu Said, it is far from Dhaka. He's a son of a very poor parents. They're very hardworking poor parents. He was the only hope for their future. He was killed by police. He was unarmed, and that was not any provocation. He was killed, and that was in a video that reached to the people of the Bangladesh, and that make people very angry. But government did not take any lesson. They started use more force, and 16, 17, 18, 19, about by 20, more than 200 people were killed. By 24, more than 300 people were killed, and most of them youth. Also, there's children and age-old. There are many from the working class, and that made the people other than the students join the movement. Government used more force, made curfew, brought army, and that could not stop the people's anger. Could not stop their mobilization. Rather, it increased their anger, because they saw the innocent people killed by police and the ruling party elites. So that government continued to make mistakes. And that brought 5th August, that when all the sections, teachers with the students, this is the very, very much special scenario when students are standing, facing all armed killers, and teachers are coming, joining them to rescue them, and other lawyers, artists, writers, journalists, every section of the people joined the protest after seeing all this cruelty. It was unprecedented cruelty within this 1 month. And to be specific, it was from 15th July to 4th August, these weeks. So many people were killed by police and the state. It is unprecedented. So bloodshed and so cruelty, so atrocity. We have experience of mass uprising. We have experience and history of also this mass resistance. So this is what happened in July and August, and that was a situation that Sheikh Hasina lost all her last weapons to stay in power. She fled.
It's just so incredible. I want to kind of pause on that last bit that you talked about, that we have a history of resistance in Bangladesh, which we do. And I think it's very, we have seen uprisings in the past, but I thought what was interesting for this one is that it was nonpartisan uprising compared to some of the uprisings in the past, even including the National Liberation War, which, so I wanted to ask if you could share, what was kind of the thinking behind this. And I know you already mentioned that the masses did not have faith in the opposition of BNP and Jamaat, but where was the left on this? And was there any leadership, or maybe lack thereof? Maybe there was absence or weakness. I'm not sure, but I kind of wanted to understand the sort of nonpartisan nature of this uprising.
Yes, our earlier uprising, the major uprisings in 1969 against Pakistani general, that was led by political parties, a number of political parties. They did not have any disappointing records in the past. They were new. They were not in power. So Awami League, NAP, and many other parties. In 1971, there was a liberation war. Awami League led the liberation war, but there are other parties also. Left parties were also involved. In 1969, left parties were very much active. In 1990, when Ershad, there was a mass uprising against Bangladeshi general Ershad. That was also led by three alliances. Awami League, one alliance led by Awami League, another alliance led by BNP, another alliance led by left parties. This is 1990. After that, first BNP in association with Jamaat, then Awami League in association with other parties, then Jamaat with, then BNP with Jamaat, then Awami League with 14 parties. They one after another they ruled the country, and all these major parties have shown that they are not, they don't have any plan, or they don't have any political ideological position to implement people's demand, people's interest, even their commitment. They failed with it. So when this movement against the unelected government or authoritarian Sheikh Hasina, the BNP and other parties, they could not make any breakthrough from 2014 to 2024. There are left parties and they have their role, but in Bangladesh, left parties, two major trends in the left parties. One group joined Awami League. Why? because their argument is their main argument is fundamentalist Islamic fundamentalism is the main problem of Bangladesh. So we have to give support to Awami League to fight Islamic fundamentalism. And they supported Awami League from 2008. What happened in these years, 15 years? Islamization increased everywhere in Bangladesh. Number of madrasa, number of mosque, and in culture, in dresses, in educational institution, everywhere we see the Islamization and Islamic groups, online, offline, physically, everywhere they like strengthen their position. And government, because of their all mysterious and also very cunning steps, they make some understanding with the Islamic Party, because since they want to remain in power without election, without voting rights, so they have to get support from internationally, from India, USA, China, nationally from the big rich bureaucracy, civil and military bureaucracy, and also Islamist groups. So these Islamist groups, the government make concession to revise syllabus of school syllabus. Why? Because Hafazat Islami made demand for that. Total syllabus was revised in favor of all these things. So those groups of left prove that they are opportunists, not left. Other part of the left, they try to keep their movement in the last 15 years. Most of the time, these left parties were also united under National Committee to Protect Oil and Gas. The movement for Fulbari, movement for Sundarban, movement against all these bad deals. And in the political scenario, they have certain alliances. Left Democratic Alliance. There are alliance against fascism. There are other left parties, but they don't have that strength to make any big change. In this movement, the students' movement, these left parties, according to their strength, they were active. They were active. That student organization were very much involved in this student movement. And in student uprising, the coordinator of the student movement, there are number of student coordinators are from the left.
That's really good to know. So now Bangladesh does have an interim government. It's been formed. It's being led by Dr. Yunus, who is a Nobel laureate, an economist. He's famous for the microfinance, which I think by now there is a very well-known critique of microfinance as an extension of, neoliberalism, and many people say it's a substitute for the welfare state. I wanted to understand, in your view, what is sort of the scope of this interim government, and what is even possible.
This is not very certain thing, because there are many uncertainties with this. This interim government, they don't have any constitutional validity, to be very specific. But they rely on the students' support, student protest, and the public opinion and public consensus. Public consensus was that their expression was that this Hasina must go, and Hasina fled. So there was a vacuum. And Mohammad Yunus, because his microfinance program and social business, I have many critique about that. And I have written also on this. And he is a very new liberal type, pro-corporate person. But since he was a Nobel laureate, and so he has some popularity among the people who do not have very clear idea about his idea and its consequences. So he has popularity, but his sympathy for him increased because of Sheikh Hasina. Because Sheikh Hasina, that was illogically, she has personal problem with Dr. Yunus because of his getting Nobel Prize, etc. So he was like harassed, like anything. It was a huge harassment. We cannot support that. That made him more dear to the public and the students, that he has so suffered from this authoritarian government, and he has international recognition. So we can choose him as the interim government chief. So because of his ideology and pro-corporate position, I'm not sure what he will do in economics, especially on economic front. But his liberalism is there, and he appointed many others who are known as human rights activist or writer, an economist, retired banker. So there is a two possibility. One is there are the main pressure groups. We can find three pressure groups who were a threat for democratic transition. Number one, the big rich class who made their property, concentrated wealth in the last 15 years, the big business groups in the country. Number two, civil and military bureaucracy. And number three, international lobbyists, international corporate groups. These three, they enjoyed authoritarian rule and they get benefits from authoritarian rule. They are not fond of, or they don't want any democratic system which have accountability or transparency. So these three will try to keep this system of non-accountability and non-transparency running, or they try to keep as many as possible. But there are the situation is not the same. There was a mass uprising. Students have their aspiration, and the whole society have earned a time which is like, we don't want the same thing again. Same thing under Awami League or same thing under BNP Jamaat. We don't want anything. This is the main spirit of the time. So I think that is a very strong possibility of not get defeated. So there is these two possibility, and there will be, I know that there will be struggle in every phase.
No, totally. I think the struggle always continues, as we say.
Yes.
I want to kind of just wrap up our kind of discussion today by talking a little bit about the regional implications of this uprising. In my view, I think this uprising is one of the biggest challenges geopolitically to India, especially Narendra Modi, who has himself been in power for almost a decade, riding on the wave of Hindu nationalism, and also advancing his own neoliberal policies. And Hasina's government was known as a close friend and ally, and there are a lot of extractive deals that happened, such as Rampal coal power plant that benefits the Indian ruling class. At the same time, China, Russia, they all have investments and loans that Bangladesh needs to repay, like a lot of debt that Bangladesh has incurred to fund a lot of infrastructure and those mega projects. So given this uprising, this big change, and given all these like foreign sort of, competing interests, like what does it mean for Bangladesh, and what does the uprising mean for, I guess, the region it's altogether?
Yes, this international dimension is very important, and the last government had international support to keep her power without election and without any developing democratic institutions. And India was her very important and very decisive partner. India's support actually helped to keep this authoritarian rule for this long. India could make some changes in this. So India is not very happy by the downfall of Sheikh Hasina, but the thinking or the assumption that USA interest of the USA and India is very conflicting and is a very exclusively different. I don't agree with that because USA repeatedly expressed their interest to work with India on Bangladesh. So they have certain regional understanding against China, USA and India. And also in business terms, trade terms, India is very important for US investment, corporate investment, and their strategic location. So USA will try to pacify India and work with India to work with Bangladeshi new government. And India recently, yesterday, Mohammad Yunus had telephone talk with Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi, in the meantime, congratulated Mohammad Yunus. So Mohammad Yunus is not any hostility between Indian ruling class and Mohammad Yunus. This is not a big problem for the relationship. The changing scenario, I think that will create another equilibrium. China, USA, India, and the interim government. China is like when USA and India taking position against China or any strategic interest, then there is a tension. And in the last days of Sheikh Hasina had made some promises to India at the expense of Chinese project, and China was not happy. And when Sheikh Hasina visited China the last days before her resignation, that was not a very good response from China because China was it was very clear that China was not happy with Sheikh Hasina. So that there was already tension on China and India because Sheikh Hasina was she very clearly said that I will give preference to India for any project. So in this scenario, we see that this interim government is trying to find a good relationship with China, India, and the USA. And if this government keep all the business contracts made by Sheikh Hasina with India, China, and USA, that will not create any problem for this government. But people's aspiration demand the cancellation of many projects and contracts with these parties, like Rampal coal-fired power plant by India. That was a huge popular movement in the country, and now it is again people are demanding that it must be cancelled to save Sundarban. And Sundarban is it is a natural protective system for Bangladeshi people in the coastal area and many adjacent areas. There are projects like Rupur from Russia, nuclear power plant. There is also there is a demand that this must be cancelled, and Bashkhali, another Chinese project. So these are the demand from the society, but it seems that this government will not go for this and will try to keep the status quo in the sense that economic and other issues. If they keep this status quo, then nothing will change actually. That is the, I think, main tension of the time, and people are trying to keep these issues alive.
Professor Mohammad, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. Bangladesh just has such a rich history of resistance and struggle. And with this mass uprising, it's just been an inspiration to people all over the world. It was an honor having you in this podcast. Thank you so much. Bangladesh, The situation in Bangladesh is evolving every minute, but what is hopeful is that the people have found new confidence in their power as working masses. The students and workers of Bangladesh continue to inspire movements across the world. Thank you so much to Professor Mohammad for talking to us today and sharing his insights and analysis. In our upcoming Red October conference, we will be going deeper into this discussion around mass uprisings and revolution, along with other talks on state and elections, fighting the right wing and fascism, and building workers' power. Please check out the link in the episode description for more information and to purchase tickets. Thank you. And if you haven't already, please consider donating to the Spring Fund Drive so we can continue making episodes like this one. The link for the fund drive will be in the description. This episode was produced on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishnabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It was produced by Spencer Bridgman and me, Sarah Shahid, with original music by Benjamin Bilgin. The song at the end of the interview is called Awazutha by Bangladeshi rapper Hannan, who was arrested during the uprising but is now free. The song and his discography is available wherever you get your music. To read and listen to more from Spring and to find out how to join Spring Socialist Network, please go to springmag.ca.